This is Europe Remembers on Tour Day 2, and I'm sitting here in the middle of the monastery that was destroyed during the Battle of Monte Cassino. The battle was one of the fiercest of the Second World War. The town and medieval abbey of Cassino were key objectives on the road to Rome, and thousands died here in the fighting. With static lines, artillery bombardments and charges against fortified German positions, it was a reminder of the bloody First World War battles. In this episode of Europe Remembers on Tour, we will visit the locations of the battle for Cassino and explore the so-called Gustav Line.
So won't you please say hello to the folks that
Hello. Guide Anna-Marie, this is the Polish War Memorial for all the Polish soldiers that died during the Battle of Italy. Yeah, really impressive.
Yeah, a really impressive monument in a really great position. We are on the Liri Valley and we are on the Gustav Line, the German defensive line that the Germans decided to prepare to welcome the allies that were arriving. I think that you notice that we are very high and about 600 meters, and the view on the Liri Valley is fantastic. Now you can understand why the Germans were so successful in stopping the allies arriving from the south, so from Sicily and in our case from Salerno, going to Rome, because naturally the strategy was very easy, being higher, controlling the valley and the hills all around, and naturally be prepared to be attacked. All these very high hills were the places in which the Germans were waiting for the allies who had to cross. Now you understand why the Abbey of Monte Cassino was bombed, because naturally the allies tried to make the experience of those who had to attack lighter, because they believed that the Germans were also inside the abbey. And the abbey was bombed on the 15th of February 1944. But the Poles arrived later, and they were the first in May 1944 between the rubbles of Monte Cassino.
Yeah, and there's also Polish war cemetery below, because a lot of Polish soldiers died over here.
Yeah, in attacking the abbey, naturally, so many of them died. We have a cemetery with more than 1,000 soldiers, Polish soldiers fighting here for the freedom of Monte Cassino. And naturally, all the soil that is around us is full of Polish blood, because of so many of them died here in this area, naturally.
Right next to the Polish war cemetery, we found this unexploded ornament, ammunition. Is it still dangerous out here?
Oh yes, naturally. We had here, in particular, the last battle of Monte Cassino fought exactly on this battlefield. That's why we can still find piece of bombs, munitions, mines. That's normal for us. And what do you think about follow me to a special relic still lying in the middle of the forest? Is a tank that has been used by the Poles and is still there as a memorial. Come with me, I will show you.
Oh, let's go.
We are in the so-called bottleneck between two very special hills. Snakehead Hill and naturally Phantom Ridge. And what happened when the Poles arrived on tanks? They arrived until here driving on the so-called Cavendish Road. But the tank that we can see in front of us was the first one that jumped in a mine, and you can imagine it was destroyed because the munitions that were inside exploded after that, and the 5 Poles that were inside all died during the explosions. And the Poles decided to let this tank here as a monument, as a memorial, to remember the first people that were killed here on the Polish side.
We left guide Anna Maria and we're now standing at the Bell of Peace at the Garrow River together with Roberto from the Battle of Monte Cassino Association. This river was really important during this battle.
Yes, we stay on the Gary River. Is involved in the old casino battle, especially in January, when the 36th Texas Division tried to cross in the river with 2 regiments from 20 to 22 of January, and in 3 days have 1,900 casualties. And United States was surnamed the Bloody River. This bell was inaugurated some years ago, and remembering all the fallen in the casino battle. And every day have 13 ring for remembering the country fought there.
Is the next location we're going to?
Yes, now we go to the Castle Hill, just down from the monastery, and after on the German cemetery.
Roberto, we are in the middle of a castle. It was hard to climb up here because of all the tough terrain, rocks. It must be really difficult for the soldiers fighting over here.
Yes, the castle was involved in the battle, especially in the third battle, and it's very important for the Allied at this point for try to take the monastery. And the Germans, it's important to take again the castle for the defense. In fact, in the 19th of March, there is air fighting against the German with the Allied troops, and it's really a medieval fighting, body to body, very hard fighting. In the afternoon of the 19th March, there is a famous truce from these troops, and the opposite soldier change chocolates, cigarettes, whiskey, the address, because after the war we can meet again. But it's really the war is stopped after become hardest the war. And this moment there is a moment of peace. I think the soldier view in the face and the eyes of the enemy and understand that then the enemy is not too much different.
And there is still war damage you can see over here.
Yes, still walking from the rocks. In the position was taken from a New Zealander in the afternoon of the 15th March after the heavy bombing of the town. The New Zealander climbing the rocks and entering in the castle. It take many German paratroopers prisoners. The German War Cemetery of Cassino is the last cemetery built after the war. It was inaugurated in May 1975, and there is 2,000 graves of soldiers died in the battle from Calabria, from the south to the Gustav Line. It's important to visit. We stay now in the top of the cemetery, and just around from here there is the graves of the soldier. In every marble graves there is 6 soldiers buried, and there is the name of the soldier, the name, the date of birth, the date of death. So it's important to visit this site because for understand all the Battle of Cassino, we must understand also the soldier then fought in the wrong side of the story. So we must understand why fought here. I think also this soldier, not all, but many, as very young soldier, you read the date is very young, is also are victims of the war because for ideology of Nazis fought there and killed with a rifle.
This was Europe Remembers on Tour from Cassino. We visited this hard terrain and heard the stories of the men that fought over here from all over the world. By visiting these places, we remember their efforts and sacrifices made for the Battle of Cassino.